Hello Zion Development, welcome to a new tutorial series, and today we're going to be showing you how to make a Discord bot for Rust Console Edition community servers. So we're going to be using a wrapper called rce.js for this, and we're also going to be using discord.js and Sapphire Framework. This is going to be written in TypeScript, and in this episode we're just going to make a simple console command that has autocomplete for the server names, and we can send a command like get auth levels and see a response in Discord. So let's jump right into it. So firstly we'll start off by running npm init-y, then you'll get a package.json file up there, and let's install our dependencies. So we're going to do npm I discord.js at sapphire/framework at sapphire/decorators rce.js and .env, and that'll take a moment to install. And then once that's installed, we'll install our dev dependencies. So that's npm I -D at type/node TypeScript, and that'll take a moment to install. There we go. And then we're going to create an src folder, and then we're going to create a tsconfig file. So that's tsconfig.json, and we'll go ahead and do our compiler options. So the module will be node 16, probably a bit outdated, but hey, this config's still working for me. Module resolution, again node 16. Target is ESNext. The output directory is going to be a dist folder. Lib ESNext and DOM. Source map, we'll set that to true. Inline sources can be true. Incremental can also be true. ES module interrupt can be true. Experimental decorators can be true. Emit decorator metadata, true. Then we could do skip libcheck, set that as true. Resolve JSON module, true. And then the only files that we want to compile will be anything in the src folder. Okay. So now we've done that, we can get into our .env file. So let's create a .env. And in this file, we're going to want a Discord bot token. And you should know by now where to get that from. And a Discord server ID, guild ID. That's all we need. I'm going to populate that now off camera, so we won't have to see this file again. So now in the src folder, we're going to create a file called client.ts. And in here, we're going to import application command registers, register behavior, Sapphire client, log level, and container, all from Sapphire Framework. Then we want to import gateway intent bits from discord.js. Then we're going to import RCE manager from rce.js. We'll import read file sync from fs, and import join from path. Before we go any further in this file, let's just quickly make our servers.json file in the root directory. And in this file is where we'll put any servers we want the bot to run on. So it's going to be an array. We're going to want an identifier for the server. In our case, I'll just use tutorial server. The identifier needs to be unique. So if you add more servers, it can't have the same identifier, otherwise it'll get confused. Then we'll have our RCON information, which you can find in gportal or Nitrado at this date. So make sure these values are correct. Again, I'm going to populate those off camera in a minute. The state, we're just going to put an array with a string in it, and whatever you want, whatever your Rust server name is, pretty much can go in there. It's just in a readable English name. Then we want to specify our reconnection options. This part's optional, but we're going to do it anyway. We'll enable reconnecting if it was to ever disconnect for whatever reason, and it'll try every 10 seconds with unlimited attempts. And then we can have server info fetching. Again, this is optional, but I'm sure it'll come useful in this series at some point. And we'll fetch server information every 30 seconds. So I'm going to populate the RCON information now off camera, so I'll be back in a minute. Alright, I'm back in the client.ts file now. So we'll export a default class called rce-client. It doesn't matter what you name that as long as it's extending the Sapphire client. Then we're going to have a constructor, and inside the super we can define our intents. So for now I intend to access the guilds, guild messages, and guild members. And I'm just going to put message content there just in case in the future. And then we can specify a logger option, which the log level will just stick here info. And now we want to override the login function. So a token will be passed through, which is a string. And then first of all, we want to make it so whenever a slash command is updated, it will update automatically. And then we also want to set a default guild ID, which will come from our env file. So we process.env discord guild ID. And then at the bottom of the file real quick, just to add the type, we'll do declare module at Sapphire/pieces. We're going to be extending the container interface to add RCE, which is going to be of type RCE manager. And now we can do container.rce, as you can see, IntelliSense has it. Create a new instance for the RCE manager. Now I don't want their loggers to get mixed up, so I'm going to change the logger instance to Sapphire's logger, like so. Now we want to fetch our server data from the file, so we're going to do read file sync, join the current directory name, join current directory name, then we'll go back a directory and then servers.json, and that's going to be in format UTF-8. And then we want to pass that, so we do past servers, json.pass, server data. And then we're going to loop through the data, so we're going to loop through all the past servers. And then because it's already in the correct format, we can simply just add server, like so. And then finally, we just want to return super.login and pass the token through. And that's our client file done. So now I want to create our index.ts. And we're going to import the RC client from the file we just created. And we just want to make sure the env file's working, so we'll import .env config. Create a new instance of the RCE client, and then we can just do client.login and pass through our token, which we've already defined in the env file. Real quick, go into package.json and change the main to dist/index.js. Alright, so now that part's done, we can now set up our listeners. So we'll create a new folder called listeners, and in that we'll create discord.js, our discord.js folder. We'll do client ready.ts. So we want to import listener from Sapphire Framework and import apply options from Sapphire decorators. Then we can create a new decorator for listener options, and the event is client ready. Then we can export class client ready listener, doesn't matter what you name it as long as it extends listener. And then we want to override the run function. And we can get a username and ID from the logged in client user. Then we do this container.logger.info, logged in as username, and pass through the ID as well. So that's our client ready listener. And now, before we make a command, let's do the interaction handlers. So create a new folder called interaction-handlers. In that folder, create a new folder called autocomplete. And this one is going to be called server autocomplete.ts. We want to import the interaction handler types from Sapphire Framework. Import apply options again from Sapphire decorators. And we're going to import the type of autocomplete interaction from discord.js. And then we can specify the type of interaction handler says. It's an autocomplete. And then we can export class server autocomplete handler extends interaction handler. So let's override run, which is going to have two variables. Interaction, which is an autocomplete interaction, and the result is an interaction handler .pass result for this class. And we can simply return interaction.respond result. It's going to be an error there right now, but that's fine. That error will fix itself after we've sorted the pass out below. So now we're going to override the pass method. And again, the interaction is an autocomplete interaction. Firstly, we're just going to make sure, is it the command we're looking for that's being run? So if it's not, we're going to return this.none, which will ignore this interaction. We're going to get the focused command option. And we're going to make sure the focused option name is equal to server, otherwise this interaction will be ignored. Now we want to get all servers from the RCE manager, like so, and get all the filtered servers, or filter through it to make sure it matches our search query. So we want to filter through server.state 0, convert that to lowercase, and see if it includes the focused option value to lowercase, like so. And then we want to slice that and make sure it returns no more than 25 results, otherwise we're going to have some issues with the Discord API. And then we can just return this.sum and map through the filtered results, return it in the correct format. So we have to have a name, which we want to display the actual server name that we specified in state earlier, and then the value is going to be the identifier, because that's how rce.js works. And as you can see, that error's gone now. That was up here, that's fixed itself. Okay, so next we can create the actual console command now. So we're going to create a new folder in src called commands, and in that folder we're just going to create a category folder called admin, and then we can create console.ts. So So let's import application command registry and command from Sapphire framework, and then we can import apply options from Sapphire decorators, and then import the type chat input command interaction from discord.js. So this time we want to specify our command options, so we have a command name called console, a description called send a command to a Rust server, and the required user permissions to use this command is going to be administrator. Now we want to export the class console command and extend command. And then we can do public async chat input run, which will have a chat input command interaction. And then let's quickly build the actual slash command. So we'll do public override register application commands. Don't know why it's automatically done that, but we don't need that. But that's good. How it looks now is good. So now we can do registry.register chat input command builder. Then we can do builder set name, which is this.name, set description to this.description, and then we're going to add a couple of string options. So the first string option is going to be for our server, so which server to send the command to. The server to send the command to is required, and we just made an autocomplete for it, so we can set autocomplete to true. Then we can add another string option, and this one, you guessed it, is for the command content. So the description being the command to send to the server. That is required as well. That's the builder done, and now the actual command handler. So back to this chat input run function, we can get a server ID from our server, and yes, it's required, and then get our command also using getString command, and it's required. We want to make sure the server exists, so first of all we'll get the server from the RC manager by server ID. If the server doesn't exist, we'll reply to the interaction. Wait, no, first we need to do await interaction defer reply, add flags ephemeral, because sometimes a response can take longer than 3 seconds, so that's why we want to defer it. And then we can do return interaction dot, is it edit? I think it's edit reply. If I'm wrong, then rip. Provided server not found. And then we want to get a command response, so we'll do this.container rc send command to the server ID, and then pass through the command. And then we can do interaction edit reply again. Command sent to server, server.state 0, response. And then we're going to do it in code blocks just to make it look nice, like so. Okay, and now with TypeScript to compile, you just type tsc into the console. Tell you what, we're going to make our own little script in the package.json for this. So we'll just do dev and let's say tsc and node, like so. And now we can run npm run dev, and that would do everything we need. As you can see, that's a positive response in the console. We got one guild command. The tutorial server has been added to the RCE manager. We're logged into Discord, and let's make sure it works. So let's switch over to Discord. So now we're in Discord. We'll go ahead and run the /console command. As you can see, it's finding the server. We'll just do get auth levels again, and there we have it. We got a response. Let's run another command. Let's say users. Yeah, we got a response there. And then just to test that, oh yeah, actually edit reply did work, didn't it? We'll do this. Put an invalid server name. Yeah, provider server not found. That's brilliant. So that's it for this episode. You have a base of what to work off now. Future episodes we'll be adding more stuff like killfeed, etc. Join the Discord, link is in the description if you need any assistance or any suggestions for future videos, and I will see you then. Peace.